Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. I'm Brian. Joining me, as always, is Hanno.
Hello.
And yeah, we're back after, well, a couple weeks. We didn't take a week off. It felt like it because sometimes we record on like a Sunday, and then when we record again, it's like late in that week, so it feels longer to me than it actually is, you know? So,
It's basically been
I think it's about been 2 weeks. It was like a Friday or Saturday.
3 weeks.
3 weeks? Okay, maybe it was a
Yep.
little long this time. Okay. All right. Sorry.
We both felt it.
Yeah, we did,
We're
actually.
both
You're
like-
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was,
Like,
when I thought about it
yeah.
this morning, I was like, that it feels like a long time since I've talked to Hanno. And it was. So here we
And
are.
it was.
So now we're going to have a chat.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. What's gone on since...
How's the new year been treating you?
You know, it really hasn't been bad for me aside from the weather. Finally, winter caught us here, you know, and we've had some cold.
Yeah.
We had, well, the whole country had, what, a week and a half of just freezing, you know. We had, I think at one point, and I know others have got this way worse than us, but we had, I think they said it was like 84 straight hours of below zero wind chills, which is not something we usually get here. You know, it gets cold here, but usually we're like single digits cold. Occasionally we'll dip below that, but we're talking, it was like 20 below, and I mean, it was really cold for us, you know?
Wow.
And yeah, that's why I said I know other places have, you know, like some of my friends up in Alberta were telling me about, I didn't even know this existed. They have like a 7-minute warning up there, I think it is, that basically is if any part of you is exposed to the cold for more than 7 minutes, frostbite will set in, basically. And it's like,
Yeah.
so you know, and a friend of mine that used to work up in the way up, like in the Arctic, was she was telling me about, you know, how basically you had to be careful even like peeing outside because you could get frostbite, you know, and I was like, oh God. So, you know, like I said, I, you know, fully understand, could have been way worse, but it was, for us, it was really cold, but we didn't really have any like snow or anything with it. It was just cold. Then we got a little bit of snow, but it wasn't much, you know, but it's been very inconsistent since then. Like it started warming up, then we got freezing rain, then we had fog like every morning. So, you know, that was creating all sorts of chaos for the schools around here, but you know, that doesn't affect me. But we had freezing rain, then just rain. We had snow before that, then freezing rain on top of it, then rain. Yeah, that's, I believe, how it was. So now most of the snow, aside from like, where there's big piles that were pushed up or something, most of the snow is pretty much gone now. But it's like raining again right now. So, and I don't know what the temperature is out right now, but it's probably close to freezing, and the ground was so cold here. That's why they said it was actually freezing. It wasn't so much the air temperature at the time. It was that the ground was so cold from all that really cold weather that when it was hitting the ground, it was freezing, which is weird. Usually when we get freezing rain, it's as it's coming down, it's freezing basically. But anyway, so that wrecks my sinuses, man. It just, so that's not been fun, but yeah, whatever. That's life. Just stayed in. Like screw this noise. Went to take the trash out the night that we had the freezing rain, and I was like, well, I'm going to take the trash out early, before the freezing rain. Well, the freezing rain showed up a little early, and your boy was sliding all over that driveway. About fell 4 times. Caught myself on the car one time, like grabbed the door handle. It kept me from falling. And I'm like, well, and I immediately was like, I think there's another bag in the porch, but it ain't going out tonight. Because I'm not breaking my dang neck trying to take the trash out. But there wasn't. I had actually gotten it all. But, oh, man, it was like, and also, I mean, it doesn't help. You know how sometimes there'll be a situation and it's bad enough, and then you go, how can I make this worse?
Yes, exactly.
Well, I did that because I was like, okay, so I'm walking down our driveway, and I can either go to the right or the left of the car, right? I decide I'm going to go left because there's grass over there, not thinking that, now, oh, yeah, there's grass over there, but then I also have to cross the diagonal of the driveway, which is just ice. Had I gone right, it's a straight shot. I wouldn't have had to cross, walk down and walk across. So yeah, that was on the way back. I for sure went the other way. And, like I said, it was nice because I, was able to grab the car and keep myself from going all over the place. But, I learned you wouldn't think skate shoes would be terrible on ice, but apparently they're not great. Vans not necessarily made for crossing ice. Who knew?
I have a friend Oregon's got, if you want to see some great freaking pictures of frozen trees. And,
I bet, yeah.
Bro, yeah, I mean, they had this horrible freezing rain, but a friend of mine posted her driveway, and, they have a nice 2-car garage, and this is kind of, it's kind of at an angle going down, then they've got a sloped driveway going down. So there's this shot looking back towards the house across the garage. I mean, and it's an inch of ice, solid.
Oh, man.
Like solid,
yeah.
Perfect ice. Like
Right.
It is just perfect. It's not bumpy. It's not lumpy.
Yeah.
It came down, it locked up, and they're like, basically, we can't leave.
Yeah.
The minute you pull a car out of that driveway,
You're all
it's
over the
going
place.
sliding down the hill. That's
Yeah.
it. Done.
I don't know if you saw, I showed my mom this video the other day of I forgot where it was, that the roads were so icy that it shows, you see this fire truck doing like spins. I mean, full
all the way down,
the way down, and then it ends up in this side street, and it looks like it was on purpose, but it wasn't. It was like, but I'm like, good on that driver for being able to get control of that vehicle again, because once that thing starts spinning, it can't be easy to straighten that out. That's a lot of force you're spinning with there. So good on that guy or woman for being able to straighten that sucker out and not go into someone's house.
Oh yeah, most of the time it's like every parked car on the way
yeah.
down.
Thank goodness there weren't any. Yeah,
And once they hit a parked car, then the parked car starts sliding.
Yeah.
It's broken. What little bit of like physics was holding it
Right.
down.
Yeah. Oh man, that was gnarly. I was like, well, A, glad no one got hurt, and B, it didn't look like there was really any property damage either, which is bonus, Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so we dealt with that, but it's like I said, it in the big picture, it's not that bad. It was just, it sucks. You know how it is. Like you have that like ceiling and floor that you're used to for wherever it is you live. And when things get above or below that, you're like, and that's basically what it was. It did suck that it was like, yeah, we're not going anywhere for like 3 or 4 days here. Because, like I had something to ship out, and I'm like, I'm not asking the dude from the post office to climb our stairs with it just coated in ice, basically. I threw salt out there. But I was like, I still am not going to ask this dude to come up this driveway or the steps, I mean, and stuff. So I was like, well, I'll just email the person and be like, hey, it's going to be a couple extra days because our weather's kind of sucky here, and they understood. So no worries on that. But it was, yeah, and I had therapy the other day, but I could not get to sleep. And then I got up at one point, and I'm like, man, I'm kind of itchy. I'm like scratching my chest. And I go in the bathroom and kind of pull my shirt down, and I had like, I don't know, 2 or 3 hives on my chest. And I'm like, And then I look at my arms, and it was like, I don't know, a good 4 inches or so from my wrist, going toward my elbow. Basically, it was just itching like crazy. It was a little red. I didn't have any hives on my arms, but they were itchy. My hands were kind of itchy, and I was like, well, so I woke my mom up and told her, and I was like, I'm gonna take some Benadryl. So, just letting you know, because this is gonna probably knock me out, and also, check on me in a little bit, make sure I'm okay, type of thing, and But so I called real quick and canceled my therapy because I'm like, I'm gonna be sleepy boy, so this is not gonna be great for me, at least. Probably be great for my therapist, but not for me. So, and that was fine. It was no, I don't know what it was. That's the thing, though. It was like the only thing I had eaten recently was like I had a couple pieces of toast with some butter on them. That's not anything wild, and it wasn't a new brand of bread or butter. They're the same ones we've been using forever. And it's like, I don't know what seemed to cause it, but, whatever it was, it stunk and itched for a while. And then I was, like I said, I took the Benadryl, took a little nappy poo, and woke up and was fresh as a daisy. Well, I was groggy, but fresh as a daisy otherwise.
It's so mild too, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was. It's weird. I've had this issue since I was in high school. I had my tonsils taken out, and after that, I forgot what medicine it was. Whatever medicine they gave me, I had an allergic reaction to it. I mean, for like 6 months off and on, I had hives on my arms, my chest, my feet. It was horrible. And now when I start getting too warm, I have issues with my feet sometimes to where like they don't break out in hives, but they itch really bad. And it feels like hives though. I don't know if you've ever, like how you can kind of feel hives before you get them a little bit, or I can at least. And that's how my chest felt, and that's how my arms felt. And it's like we haven't changed laundry soap or any soap around the house recently, so it's like, you run through stuff in your head and you're like, I can't think of anything different here, so it's like, well, I'm not going to worry about it because it wasn't bad. If they were really bad, I would really put some thought into it, but it was like, whatever, like you said, they were mild, took a couple Benadryl, I was fine, but they suck. It's, I don't wish hives on anybody, man. They really suck because the more you worry about them, the worse they get. If you start scratching them, they get worse. Like it's like, so, a little cool compress or something like that to try to ward them off. Like, back when I was getting them all the time, I used to take like ice cold, or not ice cold, but very, very cool showers to kind of quell them. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, that's, I mean, I know it sounds like a lot of complaining there, but, my Detroit Lions are doing, really well.
Lions.
I mean, I guess I take it the other way. It's like, I'm experiencing a joy I've never experienced in my life because I've never been able to celebrate 2 Lions playoff victories, so there's that. That's awesome.
The majority of people alive in Michigan have never experienced this.
But in typical me / Detroit Lions fan fashion, it also is bringing a lot of anxiety because, I'm anxious like crazy until the game's over, and then it's, then it's a little more celebrate. And I'm not a like jump up and down kind of, like, that's never been me, but it's still more like just enjoying it and being excited and all that kind of stuff. It was, it's cool really cool to see and all that. And I hope it continues, we'll see. But, it's, that's been awesome. I mean, I can't lie about that. That's been pretty awesome. But I've been finding myself really not moving for the new year, and I don't mean exercise wise. I just mean I haven't really done much. You know, I I think I kind of hit the holidays and kind of coasted, and I feel like I hit that driveway you were talking about, and I'm just keep going. I'm not really pushing. I'm just like, well, I'm sliding this way. I guess it'll work, you know. And that's not all bad, right? You know, be a leaf in the in the breeze or whatever. But I feel like I should probably find some direction here, and not just completely, you know, just go with the river. So
yeah, I think you're right though. It's nice to have something like that. You know, especially at the beginning of the year
yeah,
to kind of, because it is too easy to just be like, oh, okay, holidays are over, let's just float.
yeah, and I kind of feel like I'm doing that a little bit, and like I said, I was like, okay, we're almost at the end of January. I feel like we've reached the end of the driveway, you know, so it's time to figure out how to stand up now.
For a lot of people, it has to do with, so much of it has to do with their activities and the weather changing.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's not going to happen for a while.
Yeah. And I think that's
So
been part of it for a few weeks here between that cold where it's like, we're not going out when it's 20 some, you know, the wind chill's like 20, 25 below zero. It's like, no, we're going to stay home where it's warm, you know?
Yeah.
And then, like I said, the other weather's been kind of a mess. We got out today, finally, and I went out with my brother for a little while and got a chance to, as I talk about at the end of each of these episodes, I got a chance to show some kindness tonight. And, to some people at the pizza place I went to who were having a really rough night. And I hope their night improved from the point that I was there. I hope it wasn't that rough the rest of the night. Because, oh boy, that's a rough one. It's been, I really think it's been good though. You know, it's like, you know how it is. Like sometimes uneventful is good.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it definitely wasn't bad. So, I don't feel like I've really had any like overwhelming depression to start the year so far or since Christmas or anything like that. So I think I've been doing okay. And honestly, missing the therapy appointment I did, I actually I felt in ways like I almost was kind of looking for something to talk about. And I don't necessarily like that. I like when there's something, like when we talk, you know how like we've talked in the past about how the topic, sometimes it's awesome when the topic is an organic thing to where we're like, hey, this is what I've been dealing with this week. Let's do a topic kind of, and it just seems to flow really well.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that way with therapy too, is I like going in there where I'm like, hey, I'm really feeling this right now. You know, what can I do to help? And I'll get into it in a little bit here with the topic we do have, because, I one thing I will say is, I'm falling back into the scarcity mindset because the money I made from selling stuff at Christmas has, really tightened back up. And I immediately go into the scarcity mindset. I immediately am like, clutching things and, looking around like my precious, like.
Oh, wow.
So, but yeah, well, like I said, we'll get into that in a minute. So I guess that's it for me, and that's long enough. So how about you? What have you been up to?
Things are good. I had my follow-up X-ray for the pneumonia, and it came back all clear, like no signs.
Awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say I've noticed you haven't been coughing like you were the last time we talked. So
like nothing.
Yeah,
it's gone.
Good, awesome.
Yeah,
glad to hear that.
Yeah, and I would say it's weird how, even though that part of it ended, there were still little setbacks. Like, for example, right about the time that we last recorded, it was like the first day in a month that I didn't take a cough suppressant.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that was a big deal. Mm-hmm. But then, you're like, oh, I'm feeling good, go to rehearsal, sing. And then the next day I'm taking a cough suppressant again. Yeah,
of course.
And,
the old do too much too quick situation, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a week later, I was, I went to one rehearsal. I said, yeah, I'm not singing tonight. Yeah, it set me back a little bit last week, but otherwise, steadily feeling better. And they really recommended I get the pneumococcal, pneumonia
Yeah.
vaccine. So I had that. And then that week, I had a vaccine. I didn't have any major side effects, but, clearly I felt a little off,
Yeah, right.
and that kind of thing. But this week has been just really great. Like I was supposed to have 2 rehearsals and one of them got canceled. So I took it easy that night. And then the next night I went and played with this it's going to be a 3-piece. And I mean, it felt really good. For one, we pretty much didn't play for a month. I played with them. I played with these guys a few times in the beginning of November, and then it was pretty much nothing until January.
Wow.
We had one of those rehearsals where, we nailed the beginning and the end of a song, and and the middle felt really good, and it actually was really exciting because you just kind of be patient with that.
Yeah.
Until that fight, you're just hoping that it's going to happen.
Right. Now, is the intent with that group, is that to play gigs, or you just getting together, just having fun?
Yes, the intent of this one is to play gigs.
Okay.
And so when I got there on Wednesday night, Scott had 3 sets written out of all the songs that were already, we should be able to do.
Okay.
And that's pretty impressive considering how little we've actually played and how we don't really know all the stuff great. But we did 2 full sets on Wednesday night. And because about 2 weeks ago, I told him that's been the one thing I've been just trying to come up with, kind of tying in with what you're talking about, is having a direction, is what do I want to do with music? Because I've got several opportunities in front of me, and there are things and I'm still going with this concept of joy, and it's really helping me make decisions. It really is going to work for me this year. Like, what is going to bring me joy and what what doesn't? And I know that there are some things that will bring me joy, but sometimes I need to be dragged into it a little bit.
I know what that's like. Yeah.
Right. But they tend to be things that I've committed to some degree or another.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the parts where I'm not committed to it. And as of right now, it doesn't bring me anything. So why do I even need to pick it up? I don't have to.
Yeah.
And, but that's not to say that I won't go, and I'm not just going to just brush things off. I will check it out and see if it's something I want to do, and I'll just be honest about it. And so I made the commitment 2 weeks ago with Scott and Travis. I told him, I said, I am fully into doing this. I want to play live with you guys. I have a lot of fun playing with them. It's there's nothing particularly challenging about it. And that's why I think I'm enjoying it, is we're having a good time. So that's good. My main band, Doghouse, we've been playing with the new drummer for the last couple of weeks, and that was a trip because the guy's like a hardcore jazz player.
Oh, that's different. Yeah.
Right. But he comes from an older school rock and roll, kind of a vibe. And I've never played with anyone like him ever. And I was so grateful because, I mean, this guy's used to playing with people that play stand-up bass and like are geniuses, and here I am, like, I'm a guitar player, playing rock and roll bass.
Right.
And it was trippy how I've always said that I lock in with drummers naturally just because of how I learned how to play guitar. And it was weird how all of a sudden my bass playing started changing just by playing with this drummer.
Oh, really?
So,
cool.
Yeah. Had a great time, but I don't think it's going to work out with him. He's not a good fit. But the cool thing about it was when Tom asked, so how do we feel? And I just said, I was just honest, fair, honest. I said it, and it turns out that, he kind of felt the same way. So that was good.
Yeah.
My one little thing where I put myself out of my comfort zone is Tom asked for his birthday if Sharon and I would be interested to going over to their house for dinner with another couple, but he didn't tell us who the couple was. And that's, we don't do dinners.
Yeah.
with people. We really don't.
Yeah.
We had her work had kind of an office dinner.
Yeah.
But that's different. That's like kind of like, when everyone goes out to dinner, it's more fun.
Right.
This is going to be intimate.
Yeah.
And I, it was funny because Sharon asked if there would be anybody there with a political persuasion that might be uncomfortable. I'm like, no.
Fair question, though. I mean, it's...
Yeah, it's fair question.
Yeah.
But when when we were getting ready to go, and I said, all right, let's go take ourselves out of our comfort zones. And we got there. It was so great because nobody was drinking.
Oh, wow.
Everyone had a reason they weren't drinking.
Oh, really?
And so,
interesting.
Right? And
okay.
so, I mean, Tom was. I mean, he had a couple beers.
Yeah.
But for the most part, his wife Heidi was just for some things, she's just not drinking right now, and so she'd come up with all these different mocktails, and it was really funny because of course the topic came up. All right, why are you drinking? Why are you drinking? And
well, that's a great icebreaker, if nothing else, if it's people you're not totally familiar with, right? Yeah. Because you have something in common, yet different. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And then what was really funny is because, when you talk about not drinking, you still also talk about drinking.
Yeah.
So like I had the moment because of, listening to your podcast, Salty Language, where you guys talk a lot about beers and our other mutual friends who get more into the bourbons and various things. And like the one moment we were talking about cocktails and I had my little Cliff Clavin moment. I'm like, a cocktail is a very specific combination of components. And that most things that we call cocktails aren't actually cocktails. And it was, again, icebreaker.
Right.
Gets you talking. And then it turns out the guy plays guitar. So that's like, boom, avenue right there.
Yeah.
And it was nice. It was really great to do that. I really hope we have another opportunity to do that because I really have never gotten to know Tom's wife that well. And she's a vet tech that does she mixes Eastern and Western medicine with animals, but she's also trained to do backcountry rescues as well as cadaver searches with a dog.
Oh, okay. That's different.
And it was some cool, she was.
Oh, I bet she's got some stories. Yeah.
Oh boy, they were cool. And not just how it works with the dog.
Yeah.
And how it's not just about the dog. The dog is doing their thing, but the human has to interpret it.
Right.
Yeah. And so it was fascinating. And so we had a good time, and that was my one little stretch it out there. Work wise was funny. I was a little stressed already because we have this project that I've got a contractor ready to do it, but we had to go to design review with the city, and the city's taking their sweet old time. And, Craig is trying to put off any big projects so we could do our job.
Yeah.
Well, finally, he was like, have you heard anything? I said, no. I said, let me reach out to the administrator to see what she says. And I just told her, honestly, I'm like, I never asked you what the process was going to be. So she came back with the process of pretty much saying that it goes to this person, and these are the amount of days that we're required to give you your permit. So no matter what, it's the 26th.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, well, that all of a sudden took all the pressure off.
Yeah. Right.
There's no more, hey, have you heard anything? Hey, have you heard anything? No, it's like this. If we'll hopefully hear something beforehand. She couldn't understand why it would take longer. Well, of course, it was funny just because just before we started recording, I'm like, oh, I didn't look at my phone or my work email. Yeah. Looked at my email. There he is. He waited till the last possible day. I have some questions. Can you call me today? I'm like, of course.
On a Friday.
When I don't work.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And also to where it's more likely you'll get a call back on Monday, even if you did work, because it's like, if you caught that at the end of your day, you're like, well, I'm off the clock.
Yeah. So it was nice to at least finally have that. I didn't like starting the year with something feeling pressured.
Yeah.
And so that took the pressure off quite a bit, but I still feel bad because I'm like, I got this contractor lined up and ready to go. We've already paid for all the materials. We want to get going.
It's bad enough if it feels like it drags your feet, but when you're essentially dragging somebody else's feet too, it's like, man, I'm wasting their time because they could be doing other stuff. Yeah, I get you.
That's what I stress less about the things that I have to do.
Yeah.
I have to be the one doing versus where I'm partnering with somebody else.
Yeah.
And
well, also, you
that's
never
the
know. At
part
some point, the longer it drags on, the other person could go, "Hey, I gotta go do this other stuff," and now they're not available for you too. At some point, So,
which, to be honest, I would have been like,
hey, I get it.
Go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I'm not. If you're gonna have to fit me in when you fit me in, and that's our problem.
Yeah,
now. That's not your problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, when it's my problem, it doesn't bother me
right.
as much.
Yeah.
Which is that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you just don't want to be a burden. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It was funny you talking about the weather because it kind of matches ours. We're in the same weather pattern.
Yeah, it's weird how many people I've talked, because with Twitter and different stuff, you talk to people all over the world, and it's weird how many people, like me a couple years ago, there was somebody I used to talk with that lived in Oklahoma, and through the winter when we were talking about our weather, I'm like, it's crazy how much their weather was like my weather, and I'm like, you live in Oklahoma, you'd think I'm in Michigan, Ohio. You'd think your weather would not mirror mine. You think it'd be a lot warmer there, and it kind of is. Like their lows weren't as bad, but like the cycle was pretty much the same. And when you look at the weather map, though, you see a lot of times it dips down and then comes up. And when it dips down, it dips to Oklahoma, comes right up through Illinois and Wisconsin into Michigan, or Ohio. So it's like, it's just wild because you don't think about it because of where it's geographically located. You go, oh, it's in the south or it's southern or more southern part. So it must be warmer. And then it's not, with you, I would actually, it's weird because you're out west. So it's like, but your elevation is so different, than like here where it's mostly flat, Yeah. Like, so.
But our jet stream will, can go up and then drop down to you.
Yep,
right?
exactly. Yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
And the funny thing is the people that live close to me actually have a completely different weather pattern than we're having.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like they're actually like people south of us are getting more snow.
Yeah.
People that are not in the mountains. And
well, I've talked about that before. Like I know with you and other people where I'll talk about how like where I live, we're in like a pocket to where if you go north of us, they usually get way more snow and cold. And if you go not necessarily south, but things will either miss us north or south of us. If it misses us to the south, it'll usually like crush Cleveland because it'll grab that lake effect and just punch Cleveland and Buffalo. But it'll miss us or it'll barely hit us, It's so wild how many times like we'll read like Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is like 3.5 hours from here. They'll get just crushed with snow and Cleveland will get dumped on and we get like 2 inches, and it's
that's
like,
how we are.
It's wild.
We're a bit of a donut hole too. So it's kind of funny. We had a couple 0-degree days. And then what was weird is I do this energy management stuff. So I put in what the highs and lows were from the previous day in our system. And there was one day 3 days ago where the low was 36 and the high was 38. And that was that's really weird.
Yeah.
Like, that's really odd for winter for us.
The last few days here, I think our lows have been, around 30, and our highs for a couple of the days were like 34, 35. So it's not quite where you're at, but pretty close, No,
it was the days before and after were exactly that.
Okay. Yeah, like the last couple days we've been hitting into the 40s and stuff now. And, and I was like, okay, I like this. The sun's lasting a little longer in the day. We're hitting 40 again. At night, we're only in the 30s. Like, okay, it feels like we're moving the right direction now.
Yeah. And you know what? That's funny you say that because, like, I've been practicing with these guys at pretty much between 5:30 and 6.
Yeah.
And so for the last few weeks, as I'm going there, I'm like, oh, it's a little lighter. And this last week, I was like, all right, it's 5:30. It is completely light out still.
Yeah.
And I think that ties in a little bit, or I think it's a good way of looking at that idea of, you had the shortest day of the year. Now the days are getting longer. It's getting lighter out, and it can give you that kind of motivation to, hey, we're moving in this direction that heads us towards more activity, so to speak.
Spring and warmer weather, more, right? And like here, it's just sun. Like those longer days mean we might get some sun here because it's so overcast. Like that's been the real issue. It's been overcast like every day for a while here. We've barely had any sun. That's one of the things that's like, God, I just wish we could have a couple sunny days. But this time of year, usually if it's sunny, it's cold.
It's cold
because there's no clouds,
Exactly. Same here. So
Yeah.
even though it's been overcast, I'm like, okay, well, it's getting lighter,
Mm-hmm.
and it got me to like, oh, I need to make an appointment with the chiropractor, like, okay, let's make my eye appointment, let's,
Oh, I'm glad you said that. I got to write that down. I actually need to do that. I meant to do
right.
it before the end of the year and I forgot. So,
And then I've been like continuing with, like you were talking about, like the scarcity thing. I'm looking forward to talking about this tonight. I actually hit that with my with my new amp, and I'm like, okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna play with my band, and I'm gonna set this thing up, and all of a sudden I was like, oh man, I could really use that thing I sold, and I had that moment of like where I was like,
no.
well, why'd you go? And I went, no, remember we talked about this.
Yeah.
Scarcity says I can't sell this because I'm afraid that I won't be able to get it back again.
Yeah.
And I went, well, let's figure it out if we need it. And if we do, we'll get another one.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why when you brought up the topic tonight, I'm like, oh, that's perfect. Because I'm like I was right in the middle of that. Of like, okay, do I need this? Do I need that? Like I'm kind of planning like, okay, what are the tools I need for this year?
Right.
And what can I continue doing with this idea of like, does this bring me joy? No. Okay, let's get rid of that. Let's keep trying to simplify stuff. And so overall, I'm feeling pretty good about the year so far, and I really, how could I not when my physical health just keeps getting better and better?
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that, because like since we talked last, I know 2 other people who seemingly got hit with the same kind of pneumonia, like really took them off their feet and really just kicked their butts, and like even now they're still basically on the timetable you were on, where even a couple weeks out of it, it's like, no, it's still kicking my butt kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So it's man.
I've had some friends of friends who've basically 2 rounds of antibiotics, just like me.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. Like, I was telling Scott the other day, I'm like, my diagnosis, it says community pneumonia. I'm like, even though it's bacterial, until you start taking antibiotics, it's contagious.
Okay.
And now couple that with the fact that pretty much all of us have had COVID.
Yeah.
Which is a respiratory and a bloodborne disease, which has some effects on our respiratory and our, on our systems. And that, and that I'd be interested to see if there is now an uptick in, community pneumonia due to the fact that, COVID. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see, because I've never heard of this many people having pneumonia.
Yeah, that's what's wild about this is like, usually it's like if you hear somebody that has pneumonia, you're just like, whoa, unless, they've had something else. Then it's a little more common. But otherwise, to just like you said, to hear this many people get pneumonia, it's like, and I've seen, I think we talked about this last time, where I remember reading, there was a report or something where they talked about how there was a major uptick in flu, RSV, and pneumonia this year. That like emergency rooms are seeing a large spike in those things. So, and I'm not surprised. Like you. I mean, you think about it's like you basically came right off of one, and it wasn't long, and you had the other. So even if it's it's like you could have been a little weakened from one and not fully recovered yet, and then kaboom,
Yeah.
And that's what pneumonia loves. And, that's why, like I told you before, it's like a friend of mine that's a doctor. She's talked about how that's why pneumonia scares her as a doctor, because that's when pneumonia is at its strongest, is it can really just decimate somebody when you're already weak a little bit. It just moves in and doesn't move out sometimes, So I'm glad to hear that you're on this side of it,
What's amazing to me is Sharon got some little thing a few weeks ago, a little cruddy thing or whatever. But pretty much after I've been, the living dead some days, nothing. She's fine.
Yeah. Well, good.
Nothing.
But yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. Well, it's that robust immune system of hers, I guess. I don't know.
I guess.
Yeah. Whatever she's doing, maybe you need to mirror it. I don't know. like beauty regimen, everything, whatever she's doing.
Our lifestyles kind of lined up when I was more ill. So maybe I guess I got to rest more.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's the problem.
She clearly rests more than I do. So.
Well, maybe that's the key. So that's how you stay
That is.
strong. Rest, good rest leads to
I
strong
need to rest
body.
more. Yeah.
Yep. Strong body and mind with good rest, man.
That's it. There we go.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's all I got.
All right. Well, it's mostly good then, I guess, as well. So
right?
Yeah, we're good here. Yeah.
I'm cool with not having to complain too much.
Yeah. It's nice to not complain all the time. So I've heard,
Rumor has it.
Rumors, yeah. It's funny. My brother and I were just talking about that earlier today about how looking at things coming up, like when they're talking about like the freezing rain, the first thing the guy on the weatherman talked about was like, hey, usually this much or more we start worrying about power outages, blah, blah, blah. But he's like, most of our viewing area is going to be below that, so we're not really worried about that. And it was like, okay, cool, And I years ago, the guy who was the weather guy here, I always liked him because for the most part he was pretty even keel and calm. So when he was like, get to cover, you were like, get to cover, right? Because he doesn't get riled up very often. So when he did, you're like, okay, take him seriously type of thing. And so at that point, I kind of started mirroring the energy a little bit of the weatherman when it came to the weather. If they're like, man, I don't know, this week's going to be rough, it's like, okay, make sure we're checking the weather and stay on top of, like, do we have batteries in the flashlights? And, like, just make sure, but when they're a little more like, okay, things are probably going to be fine. It's like, okay, just mirror that a little bit. And I found that it's funny how I didn't realize, like, I had done that years ago, but I didn't do that with other stuff. Because what it became was because I was trusting the weatherman and the way that he worried or didn't worry, I was basically putting myself in a place of reaction instead of carrying and trying to grip all that control I could grip, right? Like, okay, we got this, we got to prep for all the, and it was like, whoa, calm down. Like, they're talking like an inch of rain. You don't need to get all the crazy stuff out. Like, this isn't a hurricane, and instead it was like, no, we got to prepare for the worst. And it's like, do you though? Because you're old enough, you're experienced enough to know what to do in the event of something bad. Right? Like if we had that freezing rain, if our power went out, which was basically worst case scenario, well, pipes bursting, I guess, right? Well, we know who we can call and say, hey, can we come, do you have power? Can we come over to your house, right? Like that's how you would react. And instead of like 2 or 3 days out worrying about it and losing sleep over it, it was like, no, we're just going to get up, live that day. And if it's a problem, we'll address it accordingly, and how much lighter that makes you as a person because you're living in a place of reaction in a lot of that stuff instead of like overthinking and worry and, just exhausting yourself with all that ahead of time. And I was telling him about it because he's been trying to get his mindset more that way about life. Like kind of just take things as they come instead of worrying all the time. There's sometimes, you got to prepare and blah, 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 but you don't have to do that with every little thing, And he was talking about how much lighter he feels like overall. He's like, I just feel like I'm happier. And I was like, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Like when you aren't constantly carrying worry, how you can find room for happiness or just feeling lighter. It's wacky how that works. Like, I don't have this giant rock on my back. I don't feel as heavy as I did yesterday. Like, really? You don't say. But it was cool. I'm glad he's finding that and working on that. I just wanted to bring that up because it was something that came up with us today, and I thought it was a good bit for a lot of us, because like I said, it is easy to see some stuff and start getting a little worried, especially if you've had, like for years I carried that because we used to have, when we lost power at the house I grew up in, our basement would flood, because our sump pump wouldn't work anymore. So then the water would start coming up in the, in the house. And, so every time it rained hard, the first thing I'm doing is paying attention. Is the power on? Okay, do I hear the sump pump? Okay, now I can sleep. right? And that's a terrible way to sleep, let me tell you, because you're in a state of alert. Like you don't get any good sleep. You sleep super light because all of a sudden I'll be like, I didn't hear the sump pump. I better go check. So I can get up, run downstairs, and make sure it's working. And it's like that is a terrible way to live. And for years after moving out of that house, when it rained hard, I still couldn't sleep. Like I had, I don't want to call it PTSD, but I had trauma from it, that carried over. It was a behavior, I should say. There we go. So yeah. Just for anyone listening, if you can kind of lighten your load that way, it's very beneficial to you. Because now I don't worry about it. I can sleep through heavy rain now. It took me a long time to unlearn that pattern. Let me tell you, a long time. And even now, I'm still a little nervous when it rains hard, but not like I was, because like I said before, it was like oh great, now we got to go, like, can we get to the run the cord to the generator so we can run the sump pump, and it's like all that stuff. So that's not fun. Living in that survival mode kind of thing is very exhausting. So yeah. All right. Well, the topic for tonight, as we've kind of already, man, I really wish I could put this in reader mode because man, is this page bright. I know I should just turn the brightness down on my monitor, but I like my monitor bright, but I hate when I'm on a white page, like that's when it kills me. And this is from headspace.com, and they talk about overcoming scarcity mindset. Where is it? Forgot where I was going to start. Here we go. It says, new beginnings, such as the beginning of a new year, can sometimes bring up feelings of regret over wishing you had accomplished a certain goal or life milestone by now. This person says, from those that they coach, they often hear things like this time of year. It's just, I'm the only one out of my friends who's still single. I should have gotten a promotion or raise by now. I have no money. I'm stuck living paycheck to paycheck. These statements are a great example of what's called a scarcity mindset, and it's a common source of stress for many people. Scarcity mindset can be defined as a pattern of thinking that focuses on what you don't have and the underlying belief that you're not ever going to have those things that you want, even when you have access to basic needs like food, water, housing, income. Whereas scarcity itself is typically defined as not having some or all of the things that are necessary for survival. This definition isn't meant to diminish the real stress and anguish that can be caused by a scarcity mindset. In fact, it highlights how impactful this mindset can be. It says, scarcity mindset isn't new. It's been a facet of human experience for as long as there's been wealth, poverty, and materialism. Today, we can see it play out on social media, in lifestyle blogs, reality TV commercials, and so on. It often looks and feels like a mask that can drive people to spend a lot of energy trying to appear or act the right way. It says they've seen this show up in trying to keep up with other people's spending habits rather than spending within your means, or in thinking that there's a way to be a good parent or a good friend, and then internally beating yourself up for the ways you fall short. By identifying this experience as a mindset as opposed to how things are, you can begin to move away from discouraging and exhausting thought process and towards one that is empowering and motivating for you, like an abundance mindset. And for those, I want to point out here the mindset thing versus the how things are is that's distorted thinking right there. Because you think that's how things are, but it's really not how things are. It's how you perceive them. And, that doesn't necessarily make something untrue, but it also doesn't make it true, and that's just important to remember sometimes. Having an abundance mindset means not feeling limited by the things that you don't have, but instead focusing on the opportunities you do have in order to gain what you want in life, whether it's a long-term romantic relationship, financial security, moving up the career ladder, or any personal, professional goal. Your mindset plays a significant role in how you'll do in achieving your goals. A very common area that people tend to feed their scarcity mindset is in not believing or trusting that they are able to gain the skills or resources needed to meet their goals. This is where leaning on your supporters and existing resources can be a game changer. Once someone's able to work and connect with someone who can hear them out non-judgmentally and reflect back to them how they may be treating themselves, like a close friend, mentor, coach, or therapist, they can start to become aware of what is standing in their way and start to plan around it, which is how abundant thinking works. It's a mindset that helps you start from a place of assuming that you are able to get to where you'd like to go, and you can begin identifying the steps you need to take there, or to get there. Alternatively, scarcity mindset's like wearing blinders, and all you can see is what you don't have, not the possibilities that exist for you. Having an abundance mindset can help you start to shift the statements you read at the beginning of this post to sound more like, I'm able to reach my goals through using my resources and can find new ones as I need them. I've been stuck for a while and I'm ready to learn ways to get unstuck, and I trust that I'll figure out a plan to get me where I want to be. Developing an abundance mindset is a way to develop and strengthen your self-belief and trust. When you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, envious of others, or ready to change but unsure of how, try reflecting, journaling, or talking to someone you trust to understand what you'd like to achieve and to see more clearly what's holding you back. Being able to look at your situation from a different perspective, which is how a trusted friend or coach can help, is an effective way to better understand how your beliefs about yourself can either hinder or help you in achieving your life's goals. Through the process of reflection and support, you can break out of the trap of scarcity mindsets for us and start pursuing things in life you want from a place of trust and abundance. I love the talk of like talking to someone else to kind of, like you and I talked about this before we started recording, about having a person in your life that you can kind of talk to that's not standing in the middle of the forest that you are.
Yeah.
So they can kind of go, dude, you've got this, and not in a patronizing kind of way or anything, but in a literally like just, hey, yeah, you might have this, but you also have this, and oh yeah, because you lose sight of stuff like that once you, like they said, you put those blinders on. So this has a few strategies for shifting from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. So start your day by reflecting on the positive things around you. Wake up a little earlier to start your day off at a slower pace than usual. Use this time to notice the good that is around you. Before getting out of bed, take a moment to reflect on how you feel and to engage your senses. For example, rather than focus on the bad night of sleep you may have had, appreciate that you have a bed and that you likely have enough energy to get through the day. Most people start their list or their day with a list of things to do, but try making a list of things you have that will help you enjoy the day. Maybe your list includes important relationships, resources, personal qualities, or material goods. So essentially like a gratitude list in ways, because that makes sense. Like they said, instead of waking up going, man, I slept like garbage and and that kind of sets your tone for the day, is go the other way and try to find some things to be grateful for. And again, find the abundance in life. Like, wow, I have blah, blah, blah. I still have a roof over my head. I have, whatever. I get to sleep until this time of morning or whatever maybe it is, Number 2 on here is practice showing appreciation for others. This is one big indicator of a scarcity mindset is being critical of others. For example, maybe you view your coworkers as competition, or you automatically don't like your friend's new friend. Finding ways to appreciate others is a good way to start to combat this mindset. Start actively pointing out things you like about someone before you start to think of the negative. Over time, your brain will start to change its go-to thoughts of criticism as you continue to challenge it. Thinking about positive aspects of someone else is a great first step. Take the next step by actually complimenting someone else. The middle one on there of the thinking of pointing out things you like, I've heard of that as an exercise for people when they have somebody at work they don't like, is every time you see them, try to think of something you like about them or something good about them. Like you would, like without saying it, but like in your head, like pay them a compliment basically. And this even takes it another step, which is actually pay a person a compliment. But I've heard that doing that can, again, that way when you see the person, since it forces, you have to think of something positive, that eventually you won't necessarily be as negative every time you see the person, which can help diffuse situations, because sometimes people don't realize that they almost carry like an aura if you don't like somebody, you immediately kind of go into it with bad energy, you know,
Oh yeah.
and you can escalate a situation that isn't even a situation before you even say a word, you know, or before, you know, when your first word, it's almost like it's it's you, you know, kind of thing. It's like, oh, what do you mean by that? Now there's a fight and we haven't even started an actual conversation here.
Hello, Newman.
Yeah, exactly. That's that's a great example, you know, Jerry.
Hello, Jerry.
Yeah. And then the last part here is look back to notice how far you've come. Often we get caught up in wanting more that we forget how much we already have. Taking time to reflect on your life can help you notice what you have and how that has helped you get where you are now. Set aside time to really reflect back on your life. Go as far back as you want. Remember that first apartment, your job, your first relationships. Admire how things have changed and how you've always gotten by with what you have. Reflect on your childhood or even the journey of your family through the generations. No matter how you do it, taking the time to really appreciate your path can help you build pride and remind you that you have everything you've needed all along. And I'm not going to lie, the whole time I'm reading that, all I'm thinking is, what if you were like, at one point, you know, like you had a great job, a great this, now you're just like, I live in an efficiency, you know, like I feel like that was, like in my head, I'm going, I feel like this is one that could backfire. But I get what they're saying, is no matter what you have, it's, you know, I guess like in a Buddhist way, it's like abundance isn't necessarily about possessions or things. It's what do you have, you know? Even if you feel like you've had more at one point, that doesn't mean that it's what you need, you know? So, yeah, this whole thing has really been, it's something that I come from kind of a line of scarcity mindset, you know, because of money. You know, and you know, my mom had years where she had barely enough food to feed her and her kids, where she barely had enough toilet paper or things like that. That some things that a lot of people buy, like paper towels, were frivolous to her, you know, like, because no, I can buy a little more macaroni or hamburger or something like that, you know. So it carries over. And then, you know, we weren't without when I grew up, essentially, but we also weren't like, you know, we were lower, you know, middle class, poor, that kind of range. And there was, you know, but we had enough, right? Like looking back, it's like we had shelter, we had food. I don't remember there really being scarcity in food in the house. We always had a roof over our head. The bills were paid. You know, like, so we had enough, right? And so the abundance that we had was in the necessities of life. You know, we had love, we had, you know, shelter, we had food, we had utilities met, that kind of stuff, right? So those are the things you really need in life. It's, you know, but because of that, I grew up, when I had money, I didn't want to spend it on things, or I went the other way, which was I wanted to buy all the things, you know, because I wanted to make up for whatever. And like you were saying, right, it's like a lot of times, you know, there's that commercial, I can't remember what it's for now, but it's the one where it's like the guy trying to help people not become their parents, you know, and there's a commercial right now where it shows them standing next to a dumpster, and the people are walking up, throwing things in the dumpster. Like the one guy is like, you know, I have all this crown molding, and, you know, I knew it. What if I need it sometime, you know, kind of a thing. And that's the mindset that my dad had that mindset. My mom had that mindset, and I have that mindset. And I've been trying to rail against it, because every time money gets tight for me, I go hard in the paint on on scarcity mindset, in that I immediately start looking at what I don't have. You know, instead of going, you've got shelter, you've got food, you've got, you know, people who care about you, you have a great support system for your mental health, you have you have insurance. You know, all these things that I do have, but it's like it's amazing how you can so quickly forget all of that or ignore it. Just slide right into that other and oh no, I got to have this. I need this. I need, like I have to have this, or so and so has this, and then there's that jealousy like it's in there. You're comparing yourself of what this person has or what this person has, and it's like, yeah, dude, again, you've got all the things a person actually needs. Clothing, food, shelter, blah, blah, blah. Like you're not hurting for those things. You just, maybe can't buy the PS5 that you want. And it's like, but, pretty sure you'll live. Pretty sure you don't have to have that to survive. It's tough, I'll tell you. It's very tough. No, it's not. But, yeah. That's why I like topics like this, because I know you and I both identify in a lot of these things.
So, yeah.
Because we've both had our, we've had similarities with money and getting rid of things because, well, what if I need it later? Or I'm going to hang on to this because I might sell it. Or like me, I hang on to boxes because I do sell stuff, and it's like, I probably have boxes that I'll never, ever, ever use, but it's like, what if... Then what am I going to do? It's like, well, you'll figure it out then. Nope. So.
Yeah, I relate with you as far as your upbringing, because I can never think about a time where I didn't have what I needed.
Yeah. Maybe not what you wanted, but you had what you needed. Yeah.
Right? Like, and yeah, we went to secondhand stores, and yeah, we got, hand-me-downs from other friends, kids.
I figured that one out by being fat. So,
yeah.
Also really for me, the reason I didn't really have hand-me-downs was my closest sibling was 5 years older than me, and he was like a beanpole, and I've always been bigger than him. Like since I was probably like 10 or 12, I've been bigger than him. So he never could share clothing with me.
That's funny.
Yep, I hacked it.
But we had, for most of my childhood memories, we had two cars, because one was a company car and one was a personal car. And we went on a lot of camping trips, and we went cross country several times. And my parents took us to various, attractions. And if I really think about it, we did it a lot.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of wonderful stuff. Mm-hmm. Always food, everything we needed.
Yep.
And I never saw my parents as obsessed with stuff.
Yeah.
Sure. If anything, we were usually a couple of years behind in who got the latest this or that.
Yeah. Like you weren't getting a VCR, like all your friends had VCRs and you didn't, Like I remember that as a kid, we did not have one. And the first experience we got was like a friend of my dad had one, and he had a few movies. They were going out of town, and he was telling he's like, do you guys want to borrow it for the weekend? And I got a few movies like RoboCop and blah, blah, blah. And we were like, yeah, sure. And that was my first experience with a VHS or a VCR, I mean, and then it went back, and it was like, oh man, because I've had the taste now. Like movies in your own home.
And what's funny is like, yeah, we did have some friends that had those things.
Yeah,
I never really felt like I was missing out on them.
Yeah,
for the most part. But somewhere along the line, I got into a real, like. The retail world and the advertisements sunk in with me.
Yeah.
And I can't find a single representation of it with my parents.
Yeah.
At all. I don't particularly, I loved going over to my friend's house that, he had all the Evel Knievels or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't go home like asking for all those for my parents. Like I was good with just going over and, Seamus had everything. So that's cool. We hung out over there. Right.
Yeah.
But it was so strange. Even my education, I got to go to a private school for most of my elementary school.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate, and I just don't know where it came from, but it definitely sunk in. and it's kind of never left me.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I've gone through those periods like we've talked about it many times where things get a little bit tight, and it's like, okay, don't let your perception become who you are.
Yeah.
Don't. And then,
well, and that's the other thing too, is like my first instinct is when money gets tight, it's like fire sale time. Like, like I'm selling it all. Everything must go. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. like you don't have to put everything on the front lawn, like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I really do. Like I look at these comparisons with myself, and again, this is the inside job stuff, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So there was a point where I obsessed over acoustic guitars.
Yeah.
I cannot even tell you the last time I even looked at one or even cared about one. I have a few.
Yeah.
I like them.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly okay with them.
Me too. I've owned 3.
Exactly.
I've never really played any of them, but I own 3.
But then, like, I get into like electric guitars, and I'm like, I have plenty.
Yeah.
Every time I go on vacation, they all end up in my bathroom, and I get to count how many guitars are in there. And I have a pretty. It's like, yeah, you got enough.
Yeah.
I have friends of mine that have 10 times as many, but
Sure.
whatever. That's
right.
That's for them, it's an investment.
Yeah. Right.
They're all vintage, but it's. What I laugh at is where it is that I suddenly become obsessed and where I don't. And I would prefer to not be obsessed. I prefer to be happy with exactly what I have.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean things. I just mean my whole everything.
Just life. Yeah.
It's just life. But, like, I hate to say it, but being in a good financial position right now, I know I'm happier.
Yeah. Oh, for
and
sure.
I don't necessarily like that.
Yeah, like anyone that's ever said the money doesn't buy happiness, it's like it's not entirely untrue, but it affords you a lot of options. And those options can for sure lead. And I don't mean buying stuff. I mean just you don't have to worry about paying this. You don't have to, it for sure gives you options, and those options for sure can lead to some happiness. Maybe not overall Zen happiness, but, it definitely can take some, like I was saying earlier, it can remove some of those rocks off your back so you feel a little lighter.
That's it. Like, like if you like a certain lifestyle and you could easily maintain it, that's pretty comfortable.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like right now I'm in that place where what I think the difference between now and in the past is I've had lots of times where I was comfortable in my lifestyle, but it wasn't enough. And so I messed it up.
Yeah.
I was comfortable in my, my income maintains my lifestyle, but does it really, why, all of a sudden the debt's creeping up. All right. Maybe it's not.
Right.
Maybe, whatever that is. And the one difference right now is that I'm less likely to do that. I'm finding myself that I'm actually a little bit more careful, which is good, because I really don't want to go back to the several times in my past where I've gotten myself into financial problems. And I mean, I can't tell you the last time I talked about it on this show about financial problems.
Yeah,
and I
not
have.
Really. Yeah.
Going back years, I have, and it's good to not be in that position right now, but I still want to work on the inside job part. I want to be happy with the abundance that I do have around me.
Yeah.
And I want to let go of some of these old habits, like hoarding certain things.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's amazing, isn't it? Like how fast you can slip right back into that mindset. Yeah. Even though, like you said, you've been in a position where you haven't necessarily had to be in that mindset, like you said, with that oh shoot, I forgot what it was, the mixer or whatever. It's like, but look how quick you bang, you're right back into it. And it was like, what am I doing here? Like, it's like it's so crazy with some of this stuff that's, like you said, inside job stuff. How you can work and work and work and work, and then you barely hit a little patch of ice, and you're like, whoa, how did I get all the way back here? I shouldn't have slid this far. I mean, not to beat yourself up over it or anything like that, but it's still like you kind of go, what is it? I've kind of gone like, at times I'll be like, what is it I'm missing that allows this to grip me so hard every time. And I don't mean missing as in a hole in my life, but I mean missing as in what am I overlooking that I'm not working on to try to fix it?
For me, what I'm starting to realize is it's future casting.
Yeah.
It's always future casting, because if I'm in the moment, if I'm actually where I am right now, looking down at my feet, most of that stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
The discussion happens in my brain, and the itty bitty little committee kicks into high gear when I'm future casting. And that's when all of a sudden, I mean, all the times when I start looking at stuff, that's really where it ties in.
Yeah.
And when the more I can be in the moment, the less of that matters.
Right.
And I can make decisions and about, whether they're financial or, physical, with where I live and what do I need for my day to day. It truly becomes a lot simpler.
Yeah. Like I know, I mean, the major trigger we've talked about on here before, like for me, my major trigger and the reason I slide into it, I know, is when money gets low, I go, I don't have a job. So I don't know where the next batch of money comes from, and I know that's what it is. Like you said, I'm future casting. Like something's going to come up. I'm going to need money, but I don't see money on the horizon. So boom, worry and lock everything down. That's, and I know that's, but it's weird how it's like, you're going to do that, but you still can't get out of your own way, and stop it, even though I know. And what I've tried to do the most is show myself kindness and not beating myself up over it. Like, hey, don't, again, your needs are met. The other stuff are mostly wants. So it's if your wants aren't met in life, it may suck, but you'll still survive because your needs are met. So it's but we want both hands full. We want needs and wants met. But yeah, like I said, I've been sliding back into this, and that was basically what I probably would have talked about at therapy. And I've talked with her before about this because again, we've talked on here. Like this is a repeating theme for me. It has been for a long time, and again, I've been without a job for a long time, and realistically, take the blinders off. What's the obvious solution here? Get a job, find a way to make some money.
Just find another source of income.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's like the solution, or maybe not solution, but something that would for sure help would be, because I even was thinking about like going back to when I worked. Did I slip into the scarcity mindset this easy? And the more I thought about it, I'm like, I really did. Because I was very much like filling holes with retail therapy, because at that time the scarcity mindset wasn't the money, it was that I didn't have enough. Like I had tricked myself into, I need more of this. I need more stupid shirts to wear to work. I need more CDs. I need more whatever. Like, because I couldn't afford those growing up. So now I'm going to get all the CDs. I'm going to get every video game system. I'm going to get, kind of a thing. And, and then when the money went away, it became the money that became the thing I was chasing, instead of stuff. Because it's funny because, like, when I get money now, I don't chase stuff as much as I used to. Like I don't go buy clothes all the time like I used to. I don't buy, the thing I've bought the most have been Funko Pops, and I've really calmed that way down over the last few months. So it's like, I'm not running out, and I haven't been buying tons of video games. The things I was buying a lot of, and for a long time, I'm not buying tons of art supplies, which is something I used to do all the time, much like you talked about with music stuff. every time I was at an art store and I'm like, ooh, this is new. I got to buy this because I want to try it and see, I want to fool around with it, Same as if guitars only cost you $10, you'd buy every guitar you saw it like, oh, I want to play it and see what it sounds like, or what, if they were wrapped in plastic at the store, like, well, I want to get it home and try it, and next thing you know, you have like 1,000 of them in a drawer or a closet, and you're like, why do I have all these? So, yeah, man, it's just. Yeah, it's just really frustrating that to keep sliding in this, and that's really where I've been lately. It's funny because it talks about at the top of that article, it talks about feeling stuck, and how do I get unstuck? And that's really I've talked about this a few times. Like I can't seem to figure out how to get unstuck, and I don't know. That's why I keep talking with people and whatever. And again, I know. If I were able to get a job that would probably help in ways, it may create its own problems because then, it might flip on me to where I might go, man, I haven't had money in so long. Gimme. I would hope I wouldn't be that way. I would hope at this point I've gone through not having for a while long enough to go, that stuff is not important. You've lived all this time without all this stuff, But I also know part of me would be like, okay, my bills are met. I got $500 here. Like, what can I go buy? I know I'd probably do it at least once. And I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't be mad at myself if I did a little bit, like whatever. I'm just going to go be stupid on, for a minute. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm probably going to put this in my phone for, to talk about when I do reschedule my therapy. So
because the thing, so much of what this article talks about can be helped with mindfulness exercises.
Yeah,
clearly. Mm-hmm. However, when you also have a component where, all right, maybe it also requires a different type of action.
Yeah,
and it's not always easy to figure out when's the right time to do that.
Yeah. Because you're right. Like there's an element of mindfulness to this, but I think we can both sit here and go, mindfulness is not going to solve my problem. It can help for sure, but like you said, there's another component to this that really does need a different type of action or solution, because it's, as long as I don't have a financial situation, setting me up with money, I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep repeating this cycle because that factor isn't changing, and I need it to change. And there's only really one way to change that, which is get some sort of a revenue stream. So, yeah.
In whatever form that takes.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key, right?
Right.
Okay, what options are there for me?
Yeah.
What can I, so that's really the next step for me, I guess, is maybe sit down and see what I can figure out, maybe talk with a couple people and see if they have any suggestions and see where I am at the end of that, So, and also, like, at this point it's interesting because I've got issues with traditional job setups, right? Like
but
there's options, but so I'm not going to just hide behind that. There are options out there. I need to maybe, first things first, I really need to like write a resume if I'm going to try to find a job. I need to set a resume up first, but then start looking for things that are, even if they're not full on like a career, my therapist did mention that to me. She goes, when, maybe just get something that gives you 10, 15 hours a week, if you can handle whatever. And she goes, maybe just that'll be enough money. Maybe that'll give you enough to pay what you need to pay and feel freer, So that's why I said it's, it doesn't have to be, oh, if I don't make $100,000 a year, I'm not going to do it. Like it doesn't have to be rigid or go whole hog on something. It's,
But it can also be daunting to be, because it's hard not to start when you say job, that comes with certain perceptions,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden those can create anxiety.
Well, yeah, because like
And
I said, I haven't worked. The last job, air quote, that I had was working for myself.
yeah,
For 2 years before. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago is the last time I worked. So like you said, that's there's a bit of like I'll openly admit there's some like anxiety slash I'm scared. I haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah. And some preconceived thoughts of what it's going to look like, where where your therapist says it's like, well, maybe focus on just coming up with a new income stream that doesn't necessarily take the form of a job.
Yeah.
It can be you're volunteering, you're helping people,
Yeah.
but there happens to be some revenue that accompanies it, right? So, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe there's something that's somebody just needs some help, and they're willing to help you with a little income stream, and it doesn't have to feel like a job.
Right. And I agree with that. And that's something that's a recurring theme in therapy, right? Is take a big picture, break it down to bite-sized chunks, and handle that. You don't have to take on the whole thing in one swoop. Is you can start somewhere and go, okay, I'm working 10 hours and that's gone well. Maybe now I can look for something where I'm working 20 hours or whatever, and work back toward whatever. And I think that's that's why I said it stinks, because I've got a variety of things that kind of keep me from a traditional type job. But like I said, there are a lot of remote things and whatnot out there too. And, I think that's part of why I've been so frustrated at times about not being able to do art, is because, there's always, who knows, there's a chance that I could sell art. Maybe not make crazy money, but a little money here and there, and maybe justify some of those art supplies. But you know what I mean? Like I think there's been part of that in my head too, to where it's like I'm kind of mad almost at myself because I can't explore that. And it feels like it's something that's like a duh kind of thing, right? Like it feels like something I should be able to do and maybe make a few bucks here and there at it. Because it wouldn't take a whole lot to like life-altering money for me at this point is not a lot.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? Like you think life-altering money, like whatever number's in your head, I bet it's way bigger than my number is. And normally, people who work jobs where they make reasonable wages, their number is probably going to be larger, because they're thinking like, how can I quit my job? Like usually, right? Yeah. Like life-changing money is pay my bills off, quit my job, those kind of things, retire, whereas I'm like, if somebody was like, hey, I'll give you, $300 a month, that would majorly alter my life at this point, because like we've talked before about how I'm like, man, going out with friends and it's a $30 bill on the night or whatever, or $50 for a whole night of whatever. And I'm just like, man, that's hard to come up with, like type of thing. And if I've got blah, 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 I can do this a couple times a month and no big deal and still pay my bills, and so that's why I said it. And I think that's something I kind of need to hang my hat on maybe a little more, is that right now where I'm at, life-changing money is not it's not $5 million. It's literally a couple $100-$300 a month would make a massive difference in my life. So, I think maybe that's where I need to kind of put my, not ceiling, but kind of put up as the ring I'm reaching for first, is like, can I hit this? Because that'll really alleviate a lot of stress that I feel. And now can we climb from that rung,
Yeah, and reframe it to the point of like, okay, well, life-changing money is not a lot of money, which means that means not necessarily a lot of hours either.
Exactly.
And not a lot of hours is a good place to start.
Yeah. So I maybe that's it. Maybe we parsed it out a little bit. So, I mean, not just us. I mean, again, some credit to my therapist, because she did bring that to my attention at one point too. Because I talked to her about how the local GameStop here, the guy who runs it, usually asks me around Christmas if I want to like come in and basically just greet people as they come in, and help them in the store. Basically, kind of be loss prevention or whatever. Yeah. But not really loss prevention. It's more just someone walking the floor who knows the product, and I do. I know games, I know toys, I know Funko Pops, I know, pretty much everything they carry. I've got a base knowledge on, So, but actually, this year he didn't ask me. So, I'm sure if I would have brought it up, I probably could have done it. But he didn't ask this year. But, so yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's what I'm going to try to focus on, is put my head into that and think about that some more. And yeah, I think that's a good place to end it, I guess, really. But unless you have anything else you'd like to bring up on this.
Spot.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad everybody listened to the Brian and Heno, or Heno Gives Brian Therapy Hour. And actually, I have something I wanted to bring up real quick. I saw this the other day. And actually, really quick, let me pull it up and confirm it real quick here. But somebody on Twitter had posted that, there's the 888 number or 988, I'm sorry, for the suicide hotline number. And they mentioned that there's actually, God, what did they call it? Yeah, it's called a peer-to-peer warm line. And it's for people who just need to talk to a counselor, but aren't in crisis to stay alive. So it's, it's like sometimes, how you can, they used to have, I don't know if they still do, but they used to have like a non-emergency number for the police, and then there was 911 kind of a thing. It's basically that, is like, this is not the emergency number. This is one where if you just need to talk, this is, this is what you call. If you're more of a crisis, then you call the suicide hotline number, kind of a thing. But the number is, and I'm going to put it in our show notes and leave it in there, so if anyone needs it. But it is 1-888-945-1414. But I'll also have a link to their the website for it. But actually, yeah, okay. Well, wait a second. Hold on. This says for Georgia. So I want to correct myself on this. Okay, this might just be for Georgia. Never mind. Sorry, I thought I was stumbled on. Well, that's weird, because someone asked if it's in America. It is a 188 number, so you might be able to call it from anywhere. Okay, yeah, here we go. There's a directory from NAMI. I'll put that in the show notes.
There you go.
Okay. I was like, there's got to be something like that in other states, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, this has actually got a whole list of numbers for different states. Okay, yeah, that's much better. So, I think. Okay, yeah, because it actually even points out if it's a warm line or what it is. So, there we go. That's what we'll put in the show notes. So, okay. So, if you live in Georgia, you can call that number if you... I don't imagine they would turn you away, but I don't know. I mean, God, I'd hope they wouldn't turn you away. Like, hey, I need someone to talk to. Be like, oh, you don't live here. Like, it seems pretty cruel, but I don't know. So, yeah, we'll have that link in the show notes. So definitely check that out if you need lines to call. All right. I need to pull up my list here. I forgot to pull up. That's the wrong list. Oh, man, I'm a mess. It's like earlier today we went out to eat, and I'm trying to, I pay, use my card, and I go to put it in my wallet. I could not get this card back in my wallet, and I'm just laughing at it because I'm just, like, I can't even navigate a wallet today. Like, what am I doing? All right. So, if you'd like to continue the conversation, you can contact the show at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. Email is thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. We're on Twitter at thecrazylifepod, where I post when new episodes go up. You can find me on Twitter or various social media at Stunami. My other podcast can be found at salty_language on Twitter or at saltylanguage.com. Yeah, it's just me and my best friend. We talked about, the Detroit Lions, this massive sandwich that I saw this dude get apparently at the Lions game, a woman who stole a bunch of those Stanley Cups, Jason Kelsey shirtless shenanigans at that game.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah,
so great.
I was like, man, that's my spirit animal for sure, man. That's
right there,
that's the life I want to live right there.
That's abundance.
Yes.
Box seat, shorts, no shirt
Oh,
on,
yeah.
-10.
Yep. Cracking some cold ones with some people you don't know,
Yeah.
Yeah. Doing good guy stuff too, like picking up that little girl that had a sign for Taylor Swift and holding her up so Taylor Swift could see her sign and wave to her.
Yeah.
That's good guy stuff, right? I mean, you can tell he's a father, like
Yeah.
he's going, oh, my little girl would go crazy here. So, but yeah, we talked about all that stuff. So if you're into any of that, give us a listen if you would. Show's not safe for work, so there's that. And what am I forgetting? Oh, we're part of the tangent. Oh, geez, Heno, how about you? Let's skip right past you. No one's allowed to talk to Heno. Just me.
Well, I really don't have anything. You can always find me on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm lurking on Threads right now, and it's all just look up my name, Heno Heiter, or just Slimo.
All right.
See me posting about my dogs
Yep.
and my guitars, and
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I keep it simple.
Yep.
Oh, there might be a new dog on the way. So stay tuned.
I was waiting for it. I knew it was coming. I asked you last time, I think. Well, I don't think we were recording, but I was like, when are you getting a new dog? Awesome. Yeah, we're also part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So please go check out the shows there. Or if you need a network for your show, go join us over there. Our Facebook group can be found at facebook.com/group/Crazy Life Podcast. I think that's all the plugs. So good enough. Yeah. And as always, if you need help, please reach out. And please check on your friends, make sure they're doing okay. And and please be kind to one another. I'm gonna just really heap on that this year because we're moving into an election cycle year, so please remember that a lot of this stuff is not worth screaming at your friends over or being absolute jerks to other people about. We're going to have differences of opinion, and that's okay, and just try to be civilized about it. But also just, anytime you can experience or choose kindness, please do so. Like I said, I was around people today that were just having a bad day at work, and just showing them a little kindness and giving them probably 2 or 3 minutes where they weren't getting screamed at by somebody on the phone, I'm sure was nice, because I've been there, working retail. There's just sometimes you can't do anything right, and nobody will give you a reprieve. So just try to be nice to people in service industry. Well, anywhere, but service industry too, and just try to be kind overall. And I think that's it. So yeah, Heno, you want to take us out of here?
Live your favorite pizza, and maybe you should worry about yesterday's omelet.
Wait a minute.
Eggs and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, you probably don't want to reheat those eggs. Yeah, probably
maybe not.
No.
Yeah.